Hello and welcome back to episode 14 of the Hooked On NRL SuperCoach podcast. I'm your host Sol and I'm joined by my co-host Fish. How are you, Fish?
Good, mate. Good. What a magical weekend. Hey, had a great weekend in Supercoach, as did a lot of the others. It was kind of a big scoring weekend in Supercoach. And then also on the punt myself, I had a really big one with Jacob Carraz, but we'll get into the Supercoach talk later. But yeah, absolute cracker of a weekend, mate. I wish it could be magic round every weekend.
Yeah, awesome, mate. Yeah, what a weekend. It's always, a footy person's dream this weekend. And it was an awesome turnout here in Brizzy and good to see both our teams get up as well on the weekend, even though, the Warriors had it was a tough watch at the end there, with the
Serious.
Cowboys coming back. But yeah, it was a great weekend, topped off by some really awesome games. I think that Raiders Storm game was probably the game of the year so far for me. That was just bloody unreal. And yeah, it's awesome that footy's in full swing and people were getting around Magic Round. I really do hope that they keep it in Brisbane though. You went to a couple of the games as well, mate, so you'd be loving that.
Yeah, mate. Went Friday and Saturday. Bit dusty Saturday, but we got to get through it. Yeah, definitely keep it in Brizzy. It is the place to be. Queenslanders love footy. Everyone comes around. Great place to host at Suncorp. You got Caxton right there. You got the Cass in the city. You got things everywhere, mate. So yeah, big advocate for keeping it in Queensland and Brizzy.
Yeah, that's it, mate. That's it. Let's move on to some Supercoach chat.
That's it, mate. So to kick us off this episode, as per usual, we'll go through the comments of last week's episodes. And oh, that's a little reminder as well to SC Warrior from last week. SC Warrior, he was like, why don't you back your teammate up the bars, top four? Looks like it's worked out again. You didn't tip him. Did you tip him on the weekend, mate? I can't remember.
Nah, mate, I didn't. And it was actually, I was so stoked as a Warriors fan to see us come away with the win, but far out, we made it tough on ourselves. And I actually did think, in typical Wars fashion, that we were going to choke that game. And yeah, I'm really glad that we didn't. And we clung on. It was a Lukey Metcalf masterclass, as some would say. He played awesome. So yeah, up the wires. And, I've got to start putting some faith in the tips as well, but seems to be working. I'm not tipping them and they keep winning. So, we're in the top four. I think we're in third at the moment, just behind the Dogs and also the Raiders, I think, at number
Yeah,
two.
mate. You guys are doing very well this year. Big fan of the Wars myself. So hopefully they keep kicking on. And yes, I got that great tip. I thought they weren't going to hold on there. The Cowboys really came at them late there in the second half, but somehow they held on, which is, I think it's progress for the Wars. I think the Wars of old would have lost that. So it's good to
Yeah,
see them
100%.
winning those tight games. On to this week's comments. We got Paycheck off the back of our Wars comments. He's gone, enjoying the show, boys. Up the Wars. So, yes, they get another
Yeah.
one.
Just like I touched on last week as well, mate, the Warriors have such an awesome fan base. That's not just because I support them that I'm saying that, but we saw that at Magic Round. I really do feel like we had the biggest fan base at Suncorp, and judging by the crowds, we had some sort of Premier League-esque chants going on for the Warriors, and we were out in full force. There was so many Kiwis there, and it's just good to see the backing. How can you hate our side? We're such a likable club. We some would say that we kept the comp alive a couple of years ago when COVID was going. So yeah, it's good to see us have the backing, and people are right behind us this year as they are every year.
That's it, mate. That's it. Another comment here from or Crypto ATO. Love the content, boys. You know what you're talking about. One thing, I love Tina Turner as much as the next guy, but the opening music is so loud. All right, so I will look into that and hopefully I'll adjust it this episode. And so hopefully in the episodes moving forward, it's a bit quieter for you, mate, because you and someone else has mentioned the same thing. So it's a one-man show here, so we're trying to do it all. But yes, we'll get that turned down for you, big CPO ATO.
Yeah.
Onto more SC related content. We've got a great question here from Benny Woodrow. I know he was hammering the DMs this afternoon trying to get this question in quickly. So, what are your rankings on Sharp, Dylan Lucas, Bradman Best, and KPP? Marzu is currently the only knight in his side.
Easy, mate. This one, Dylan Lucas is the top for me closely followed by Sharp, and then it'd probably be KPP then best for me. Just with positional scarcity, I think KPP is more valuable to have as a second rower than Bradman is to take up one of your center wing spots, especially if you do have Sharp, Lucas, and Marju in your center wings. You don't want four of them. So I think I would rather go with KPP, but I do think Bradman averages more points slightly. But if I was looking at one to bring in my super coach side, it would probably be KPP just because of the position he's in more so. And everyone else that's Knights available that you mentioned there is a center wing.
Yeah, I am exactly the same as you, mate. I agree with that. I would go, yeah, Lucas, Sharp, KPP, and then Bradman, as you mentioned, just with that many center wings this year doing really well and the kind of lack of second row forwards there. So that wraps up our YouTube segment for the week. Remember, guys, listening, I think I saw the stats is about 80% of our listeners don't subscribe. So if you're part of the 80% right now, drop us a sub. If you listen every week, drop us a sub, give us a like. Let's see the growth. We're almost at 100 subs now. So yeah, and then don't forget to comment your comments for next podcast. So the one we do next week, get your comments in on this podcast now.
Awesome, mate. Yeah, thanks for everyone that commented, and thanks for all the support, guys, as usual. And yeah, we really appreciate it.
That's it, mate. Now moving on to the league. This must be the last week you can join the league, I reckon. Is it
Yep.
round 10?
Yep.
Yeah, round 10. So last week, guys. So you've got about 2 hours, 2 days left until the league's locked down. You can no longer join till next year. The league code for one last time is 849156. And we have currently the 25th Supercoach ranked overall in Nathan with a 1622 last week. That's a massive score. He's been consistently up there this year. So it's good to see you're doing really well this year, Nathan.
Yeah, he's absolutely killing it. I think I checked the rankings on maybe it was Saturday before the last day of footy, and he was not as high up there. So he must have had a huge last day of footy. Potentially Captain Carraz. I haven't seen his side. Maybe we just stuck into it for one
We'll
quick
just we'll
sec.
just quickly duck into your side,
Yeah.
Nathan. You got Captain Haas, VC AFB. So he was on the AFB train with me. That's right. I love this guy's second row, that his front row forwards, just so good.
Geez, be
Teddy,
interesting to see what
Drinky,
he does with no sand and Owen Paddy on the bench. Probably has to sell sand in this week or just cop Paddy.
could be
Don't
worth,
know.
yeah, free VC loot.
Yeah,
There's not
bit of a
much going on in hooker.
and I think he started with King Tonga here as well, so he's bloody
Is
got that
kicking
one
on.
right. He
How
got
about
that.
that? An 83 on the weekend. And I believe
Yeah.
he's already in the most traded, but again, next week he'll be in one of the most traded. And as I kind of said last week, I was big on him. One of my boys, seen him play through New South Wales Cup, just a goer. And he's like, I said he'd bring it. He's a runner of the ball. He attacks the
He
line, and
actually
we've kind of
come from the
seen it
highlights.
first game back. So yeah, LKT, good to see you. Really reward us owners who brought for last week. Last week was the time to buy, but you can definitely still jump on now.
Yeah, we
So
still got
good on
3
you there,
weeks.
Nathan. Good on you, Nathan. Moving on to our first podcaster is Big Ciolo with Ciolo Soldiers in ninth in the league, mate. Good to see. And the
That's it,
best
mate.
part of the week, you've just snuck in. You have just snuck in to
Yeah.
the top K for the first time this year. So how's it feel, mate?
Yeah, part of the elite, mate. Part of the elite. Hope to see you here soon. There's only a select few of us up here. Yeah, no, it feels good. Feels good, especially coming from, the slow start that I had this year from all the way out at 60K. And I haven't yet to see red arrows this year. My trajectory has all been upwards. And I think, I don't want to jinx it, but I think with Teddy on the bye this week, unfortunately, I'm going to see some reds because he has been carrying my side like no one else. So it's really going to hurt not having him. But a lot of people up there with me are sort of in the same boat. You're loving that, yeah.
Oh,
A
yeah,
lot
I
of the
do
people
love
in the
that.
top 1K as well. Yeah, have Teddy. So, yeah, I think that yeah, really happy with the side. We'll touch on it now quickly. I mean, I looped Teddy, um, which was an easy 130 points, but it meant I copped Royce Hunt on top of Sandon Smith 0. And then I also unfortunately left, like a lot of people this week, Toyers 148 and Jenkins 117 on my pine. Otherwise, it could have been an absolute monster, and I potentially could have been pushing top 500 sort of rank areas if I had played them. But can't be too upset. I'm happy for the cash gen for both those guys, and really stoked for Rob Toyer. Yeah, can't complain there. And then I guess players like Dewey and Horsburgh sort of were very, very mid. But in terms of who I traded in, Karaz went ballistic for Hiroti. Can't fault that trade at all. Brought in Lucas for Egan, which long term I'm happy with still, because it was either Egan or Jenkins going, and you got to sell these guys at some point. I chose to sell Egan. And then the other one was Harry Grant, who has not been named this week, down to Riley Smith to fund it. So I can't fault that one at all either. I think that was definitely worth a boost. And if I had held Grant and saw he wasn't named this week, I would have been filthy. So especially with Origin coming up. So quite happy with all those moves, and happy with the loop there, and happy with how the side's going. But gee, do I need to save some trades?
Serious. I think we're on the same amount of trades going into this week. So yeah, we have just been burning through them this year. But I believe we're both out of boost, so at least we can't boost anymore. So we're inherently saving trades that way.
Yeah, that's it. We're on 25 trades and no boost left. So, um, you know, hopefully we can start saving soon, mate, but you never know.
That's it, mate. Over to my side. I was happy with my score, 1567, giving me green arrows of a K up to 3K now. So good to see us both doing pretty well now in that sort of top 1% of NRL SuperCoach. And really the thing that made the difference was that Captain Karaz for his 152. And so not only did I have him captained in Supercoach, obviously, as I alluded to at the start of the potty, I had a bit of money on him, not only to score any time, not only to score a double, but to score a
That's
hat
it,
trick.
mate.
So I
Yeah.
won big on Sunday on
Awesome, mate.
Jacob Kraz on the punt, which is great to see. And we were really just riding that luck from Saturday. So I had a really, really good magic round. So pumped with that. SC wise, can't complain. Herbie, the new trade in, 78 points. He just does this week in, week out. Happy with him. The one I wasn't happy with is AFB with a 45. So I reckon that turnaround probably didn't help his minutes. And yeah, he ended up, what he played, like 43 minutes or
43
something.
minutes. Yeah.
Yeah, bugger all. So hopefully with this, I think it's a 7 or 9 day turnaround for them this week. They're playing on Sunday. So plenty of time for him to have a rest and to recover and hopefully give a bounce back as I've locked him in for the year now. He's one of my gun front row forwards. So I'm looking to hopefully him to repay the faith. The other and my final trade in and the boost was LKT. And wow, isn't that kid something? He is an absolute goer. 83. I thought he was very impressive on ground. Obviously, I was at the game cheering the Tigers on, but yeah, I thought he was part of everything really good for the Drags. And I think it's really his spot to lose now moving forward. And as I kind of mentioned earlier on, I do reckon he's going to be a buy, and you don't have to go this week. I suppose you can always wait for next week. But yeah, look, he looks the goods, and with kind of 5'8" not being a really good position this year, we've seen he's just scored 83. His bottom price is going to make a bunch of money. Not that we even need the money. It's more of a sort of to free up cash to upgrade elsewhere. But yeah, look, happy enough with the trades. Yeah, main thing was Captain Karaz, and good to see Ponga finally bounce back. But Gutho let me down again, and Drinky and Wooder went nuts, 260 combined. So always hard coming from behind when you're chipping away at that. But yes, side's looking good now. We're looking strong, and hopefully we're on to better things this week, mate.
Awesome, mate. Yeah, really like that Kraz C, as you said. But can't tell you many more weeks in a row to get rid of Gutho. Yeah, he's shit, to be honest. So he's
Yeah,
shit. He's fucking
he might
he's
finally
he's
This
Shit.
might finally be the week where he goes. But that leads us nicely into TLT for the week. So if you want to take it away, mate, our Thursday night game this week, we have the Eels versus the Dolphins.
So for the Eels, we've got Matt Dory, who's been added to the bench in place of Sam Tuivati in the only change from last week. Tuivati suffered syndesmosis injury during Magic Round and will undergo surgery this week. Rough on the poor lad. Hooker Brendan Hands is listed among the reserves as he closes in on a return from a knee injury. Ryan Madison is listed as 18th man. For the Dolphins, a double boost in the forwards with Felice Kafusi and Kurt Donahue back on deck. Martin Nichols reverts to the bench and Orion Keeley drops to the reserves. Jeremy Marshall King will miss the game due to complications related to a cut received earlier this season. I'll hand that over to you, mate, quickly. Anything you want to touch on there?
Yeah, not really. Only thing for the Eels would be if you're after a cheapie this week in second row forward, I like to look at Charlie Geimer. Obviously, I think he played big minutes last week, and he's going to be getting dual status second row forward hooker at round 12. So a bit of a shout out to him. Obviously, who's the edge that he replaced is suspended.
Uh, it's not Cartwright. It's not Lane, is it?
I don't
Khalil.
know. Tulagi.
Oh,
Kelma.
Tuilagi. Yeah.
Kelma, yeah. So obviously Kelma hasn't been great this year. So if Geimer could very well hold down that spot. So yeah, bit of a shout out to him. But apart from that, nothing really else to touch on from either of the sides. Obviously, Herbie, I think he's still a great pod, still under owned for what he does week in, week out. Obviously on the expensive side now, but he's not going to play Origin. Good buy draw. The sooner you get him in, the better, I reckon.
Yeah, fair enough, mate. Nothing really for me to touch on here either. I like Connolly Lemuelu as a bit of a draft pickup starting on the edge. He scores pretty all right. Obviously sad to see Jeremy Marshall King cop another injury. That bloke, as you said in the preseason, just always injured. So I think that kind of waves a red flag there for me or a lot of people looking to upgrade Hooker to him, just with how much he's always out. And then for the Eels, Addo Carr I like as a bit of a sneaky pod buy. And then obviously a lot of people are looking to make shifts at Hooker. I think Riley Smith is a good buy there. Obviously I jumped on last week and I'm quite happy with that.
That's it, mate. Who do you have in this?
I'm at the moment I'm actually on the Dolphins by 6 points. Not confidently, and I could switch.
Yeah, for me, I am looking at the Eels. I think the Eels had they played pretty well last week against the Sharks. Obviously, the Dolphins were disappointing, and yeah, they've now lost JMK as well. So I'm thinking the Eels in by 4 in a very tight one Thursday night. Moving on to our first game of Friday night, we got points galore, I reckon. We got the Knights versus the Titans.
So for the Knights, coach Adam O'Brien goes with the same squad that snapped the 5-game losing streak at Magic Round. Tyson Gamble's listed him on the reserves after returning from a broken nose in the Supporters Cup last weekend, while Thomas Cant is again the 18th man. Titans. Winger Jojo Fafita is back on deck after missing Magic Round due to an arm infection, while Jaden Campbell also returns to take over at halfback from Tom Weaver, who's concussed. Campbell's return a couple of weeks ahead of schedule was a timely boost for the Titans, who have lost 5 on the trot. Back rower Dave Fafita is unavailable for a recall as he seeks further medical advice for an ongoing ankle complaint. What are your thoughts there, mate?
Yeah, so we'll start with the Titans. I think really the only current Supercoach relevant player for them is Tino and Fermor. And Fermor, the week to buy him was last week. He's risen an extra 100K. I think he's 650K now. Obviously, the duel is great, but I think he very well will make Origin this year. And because of that, I just don't like him as a buy anymore in overall. As a head-to-head player, I think he's great. You can just lock him in. Great duel with Lucas. But if you're an overall player, I think the time has passed. And the only other thing for the Titans would be JC returning like 3 weeks or 4 weeks ahead of schedule. Bit of a shock. So I think it's a very cautious watch for owners if he's still owned. I don't know how they've got him back this quick. I don't know if he's fully fit even. I think they've very much rushed him back because the Titans aren't doing very well at all. So yeah, that would be it for the Titans. Anything for you to touch on there?
No, you covered all the bases there, mate. Obviously, Jaden Campbell is a bit of a bit of a watch to see how he returns that because we do know that he is a sort of super coach accumulator. He kicks goals, he breaks tackles, he just finds points. So I'm me as someone that didn't commit to a LKT buy. I'm heavily looking. We'll have a keen eye on him to see how he returns from injury, but no other real interest in any Titans players. In both Fairmore for me is just too expensive now and doesn't cover the first buy, so not keen there.
That's it, mate. And for the Knights, they're starting to look good. They had their first really good game on the weekend. The attack started to gel. They scored more than 10 points in a game for the first time in like a month and a half, which is rewarding for Knights tippers and Knights owners that they're finally starting to turn. But looks like the time to buy them is now. So I think out of them, Kalen Ponga, Best, Marzu, Sharp, Lucas, KPP, all are very good potential buys for your side. I do this week, assuming most of us already have Marzu and Lucas. I do like Sharp as a buy this week. Obviously, he scored his big ton on the weekend with a 121, but leading into that, his base was still really good. It was, despite them losing and not putting on many points, he was still basing around 40 points. So I think to lock him in this week is the week to really jump on him. And there's also the potential with Kalen Ponga potentially playing fullback for Queensland that during the Origin period we see him playing fullback and even potentially kicking goals, which would really boost his stocks. So I think he's a great buy this week. It's a bit of a pod buy as well because he's not that heavily owned. But yeah, apart from that for the Knights, that wraps it up for me. What are you liking there, mate?
Yeah, I really do like Fletcher Sharp. I touched on him last week. I was really close to going him. It was either Jenkins to Sharp or Egan to Lucas, and I chose Egan to Lucas. Can't fault the Sharp buy even at his price. Everything you touched on there with the great buy coverage, plays every round up until the second buy, and then also we'll go to fullback during Origin as well. The only other sort of player that I did have a cheeky look at for the Knights is Dane Gagai. He's at 511k now. I am someone that is looking to sell off Tamale. So Gagai was one of the options that I did have a bit of a glance at because we know what he's capable of. He got like 70 odd on the weekend, and we know how weak the Titans left edge is. So I quite like him at the price. And yeah, if anyone wants a sort of value centre wing, I think he is pretty close to the guy at the moment, and nothing really else to touch on there, mate.
Like that as a bit of a pod shout. I have the Knights by 16 in this.
Gee, 16. I'm going to say Knights by 10. I think the Titans will, with Jaden Campbell back, will be okay.
Could be a shout. Moving on to our second game of Friday night, we have the Bunnies versus the Broncos.
So for the Bunnies, we see Latrell Mitchell captain the side from fullback in his return for suspension, while halfback Jamie Humphries is also back on deck. Saliba heavily lines up at hooker with Mamazalas nursing an elbow injury. Jai Gray has been named on the bench despite leaving the field early last Saturday with a caught quad. Fletcher Myers comes into the starting side on the wing with Isaiah Tass shifting to centre and Ewan Aitken to the second row. Jai Arrow goes from lock to prop and Tavita Tolo drops to 18th man. Keon Kolomatangi has also been named in the front row with Sean Keppie sliding to the bench. Josh Schuster has played the past 4 games in the New South Wales Cup and is enlisted among the reserves as he chases a first NRL appearance since late 2023. For the Broncos, 5'8" Ezra Mam has completed the 9-game suspension imposed by the NRL, but will return through Q Cup with Ben Hunt again set to partner Adam Reynolds in the halves. A change on the bench with Fletcher Baker returning from knee injury to replace Jaden Hunt, who drops to the reserves. What are your thoughts there, mate? There's a lot going on in that sort of split.
Yeah, a lot going on, but not much that interests me really from a super coach point. Obviously, if you got Mamazelis, it's time to sell now, but interest me in this game, mate.
Yeah, I'm the exact same. I think from a super coach point of view, there's like obviously Hubner who's starting now, which is good if you held him. I know I was one of those people. Definitely don't have any interest at all in any Bunnies players at the moment, especially in this matchup and with their bye schedule not being the greatest. And then on the Broncos side, I did as I mentioned with Gagai, I'm looking at a sort of a value centre wing. I'm very closely considering Selwyn Cobbo as well. At 470k playing at fullback. I really like this matchup, and then he's got another easy matchup again the following week. So he doesn't cover the first bye though, which is what I do like about Gagai. And I don't think Gagai will play Origin this year with Hammer and Holmes probably being the centres. But Cobbo is definitely someone that I think that you could consider. And the other one, sort of touched on it last week, as a bit of a letdown was Xavier Willison, who unfortunately got injured. But I think you could still consider him too. But other than that, not much else there, mate.
That's it. In this, I have the Broncos. I reckon they bounce back after that loss and they put on 20 on the Bunnies.
Geez, I just think with Latrell, they're not going to smash them. But I do think the Broncos win this. I'm going to say by 12.
That's it, mate. Moving on to our first game of Super Saturday. We got the Raiders versus the Dogs.
So for the Raiders, we've got no changes to the side, and then for the Bulldogs, we have Matt Burton returning from suspension. So Bailey Hayward reverts to the bench. Jacob Preston has been banned for 4 games after being found guilty of a crusher tackle at the judiciary. So a reshuffle will be needed in the pack. Any thoughts there, mate?
Yeah, only thoughts really are is with Corey Horsburgh's HIA. Willie, won't he? Did he pass? Was it a cat one? Seems to be a bit of a joke, really, what the go is, I believe he's gonna play. We've seen him have the tinnies in the sheds after the game, as you do with the boys, obviously, but it's just a bit confusing with the standards from the NRL and what the real protocol is and everything. But yeah, apart from that, that's about my only talking point out of this game. Obviously, we see Preston, he failed at the judiciary last night and they'll see him suspended for 4 weeks. So I think if you own, you got to sell, but at 700k, I'm sure there's plenty of options you can go to.
Yeah, that's it, mate. Yeah, on horse, it's funny as seeing him sink a couple beers. Can't be too bad, right? You can't do that with a huge concussion and sink beers. I know I did in my younger days once upon a time, but not in the NRL, not at that level. Yeah, I think horses you could quite easily move off him, and same with Tamale, especially in this matchup. I think you can't go wrong with selling either of them. They're both sort of made their cash, but the upside to holding is that you save trades and they will both cover the first buy, and they both got good buy coverage. So you got to sort of suss out if it's worth it for your side. For, I wouldn't want to play them this week, I would be reluctantly playing either of those guys. Unfortunately, this week, which is why I'm leaning more towards the sell. I want to make use of the money on my field. And for the Bulldogs, good to see Burton back. Obviously, Kraz is killing it. I don't think Burton's an option anymore with the goal kicking being stripped. And then lastly, as you touched on with Preston, if he's out and Harry Hayes goes to the edge, I would be quite interested in bringing him in with the duel, and he's got quite a high PPM, so I think he's someone to look out for. But other than that, mate, not too much else for me in this game. I will be tipping the Bulldogs in this.
Yeah, it should be a good game. Both of them up for it defensively, especially the Raiders at home. And just because the Raiders are at home, I'm gonna tip the Raiders, I think, early doors, but could change over to the doggies on the day. Moving on to our second game of Super Saturday, we got the Dragons versus the Wars.
That's it, mate. So for the Dragons, we've just got one change with the Gula, replaced on the bench by the 19-year-old beast, Loco Pacifici Tonga, who makes his NRL debut. Halfback Lockie Elise is listed among the reserves after a 2-try effort in the New South Wales Cup last weekend. I'm just going to add to that Elias and LKT should be the halves pairing and not Flanagan. But I'm pretty sure a lot of people would agree with that, and especially Dragon supporters too. Moving on to the Warriors, star winger Dallin Watene-Zelezniak has been named for his first game of the season after fracturing and dislocating his wrist during the preseason challenge. Roger is listed among the reserves as he chases a return from injury, and Kurt Capel shifts from back row to centre in place of Rocco Berry. Jacob Laban returns from concussion on the bench, and Ed Cossey is out with a chest injury. Any thoughts there, mate?
Yeah, a couple for the Drags. Gutherson, he looks like to be a sell. He just hasn't turned it on. I thought with LKT they would give him more ball, but LKT really stood up, and I think they will continue with the way forward. So I think it might be time to sell Clint Gutherson this week. Obviously, he's only lost a bit of
I think it
value.
was time a couple of weeks ago, mate. But yeah.
Yeah, could have been time a couple of weeks ago, but better late than never. I've
Yeah.
obviously held on to Ponga the whole way, and it's really cost me. So I don't think I can hang on to two of these guys really the whole way. So I'm going to cut ties with Gutho, and kind of the bloke I've been interested in is Sharp, and I've been big on him all week. I wanted to get him in previous weeks, so I like that trade for me this week. An easy little Clint Gutherson to Fletcher's Sharp. Apart from that, for the Drags, that's it. LKT holds a spot, look good. Hamish Stewart also keeps the starting spot. I thought he played really well on the weekend. He got about 73 points, I think it was. He's
Yeah.
a bit over 300k now, so the ship's probably sailed. But yeah, he looked good. That's my thoughts on the Drags. What do you reckon, mate? Gutho got to go, or
Gutho got to go, and he's had to go for a few weeks. I didn't jump on, so a bit yeah, happy that he's going poorly because he's never been a super coach gun, and I think people were deluded into the fact that he was going to be some gun above these other guys this year, and it's just Gutho at the end of the day. It's we've seen him play for years. He's a really good footballer, but we know how he is in super coach, and he's just not that guy. So I reckon you ship him off. Um, Other than that, wouldn't be looking to bring in too many other dragons. I'm personally sitting another week on LKT just to have a look at him and Campbell. I don't know if I want to give up a 5'8" position um, when you've only got two of them to a cheapie, basically. But we'll sit, I'm happy to sit and watch and see how he goes again this week. And I would recommend if you haven't jumped on, you do the same because you never know. Elias is sniffing out, and he will be back this year, as Shane Flanagan said. So, um, other than that, mate, Hamish Stewart, as you said, I don't think he's worth a trade. He's one of those guys like Luan Patea for the Panthers, where you would love to go Royce Hunt to him or and have these guys, but it's just not worth the trade. And then lastly, Pacifici Tonga, for someone that does have voice on, as I just touched on, he's someone that I'll be having a bit of a eye on to see how he goes, and I'd quite happily trade down to him because you can't really get much worse than Big Voice in Supercoach, can you? He's terrible, a nightmare, and I'm sick of sick of having him. So yeah, keen eye on him, and yeah, we'll see how we go.
yeah, like him, mate. And who would have thought Royce Hunt starting the season at 250k would actually lose 50k on his starting price of 9 rounds into the season?
I knew it as well,
Um,
but yeah, just had no cheap front row forward options. I guess the way to do it was to stack your front row forward and spend all your money there this year.
that looks like the play. For the Wires, good to see DWZ back. Aaron Clark keeps on killing it at that lock sort of position, and I know you're very interested in Halasima, seeming that he's locked down the 80-minute spot. So I'll kind of let you talk about that because, yeah, that's all that really interests me for the Wires.
Yeah, mate, this guy, I just love watching him play. He's a beast. He's like our version of Olukwatu. If he's playing 80 minutes, I want a piece of him because he's just a wrecking ball, and I've definitely got a keen eye on him. Um, yeah, so he's someone that I really am interested in purchasing this week. But as far as other purchases go for the week, not really too keen on much else from the Warriors side of things. Obviously, it's great to see Wateni Zelezniak back, and then hopefully we get Roger back as well. That will really boost our backline stocks. But yeah, not too much else doing from a Supercoach standpoint for me there.
That's it. I reckon this will be a. I think the Drags will be up for this at home. I'm going to go the Drags by 6.
I'm gonna do it again, mate. I'm tipping the Dragons as well. I just, I, yeah. I yeah, I think we're gonna cop a bad loss this week. Not a bad loss, but we're at the top of the table, and the Dragons are not near that. And I think we are gonna see an upset this week. But obviously, I don't wish for that, and I want the Warriors to win. But I'm tipping the Dragons by 4.
That's it, mate. SC Warrior, let him know your thoughts down in the comments. Our final game of Super Saturday, we got the Cowboys versus the Panthers.
So for the Cowboys, we see McIntyre start at lock in place of co-captain Ruben Cotter, who is serving a 2-game ban for a high tackle. Tom Mikaeli has been named on the bench for his first NRL game of 2025. And for the Panthers, a huge boost for the Premiers with To'o set for his first game back since round 4 after recovering from a hamstring injury, while hooker Mitch Kenny and utility Brad Schneider are also back on deck. Tom Jenkins has moved to the interchange while Trent Turlau, Luke Somerton, and Maverick Guy drop out. What are your thoughts there, mate?
Yeah, that's it for the Cows. Obviously, Drinky has killed it again back to back. He looks to be doing good stuff. I think it's probably too late to buy. I'm not looking to buy him personally, but I think if you buy him now, you just hold him through. He looks to be a goer with the Cowboys piling on points sort of in the second half, particularly. Apart from that, I think if you have Purdue, it's time to sell. He's peaked out. Plenty of other center wing options. I think you can go Purdue to Lucas for pretty much a straight swap. So I love that trade. And obviously, Nanai has been killing it ever since I almost brought him in. But yeah, apart from that, that's wraps it up for the Cows for me, mate.
Yeah, I do disagree with the Drinky tag. I think you can should be looking at getting him now. You're just never going to own him. He's 820k now with like a very low break even in the teens. I could see him hitting a million very easily, and he has one missed game all the way up until the last game round of the year. So I think if you're not getting him now, how long are you going to wait to get him? Obviously, they are versing the Panthers though this week, so who knows? Who knows? But I do think that he's going to keep rising in price and go above 900k. But if you're not concerned about the money of the upgrade, whereas someone like Gutherson's going to just keep plummeting, and the gap's just going to get bigger and bigger. So I do like the buy still if you are looking at him. And then obviously we touched on Nana, who we both liked and has just absolutely killed it. But I think it's probably too late now for that play. And Purdue, if I had him still, I would be looking at selling. Not too much else. Good on Derby owners. They've made like 80k and got another huge negative break even again. So
That's
that's all
it,
for me.
mate. Just with that, would you buy Drinky or Sharp this week? Sharp against the Titans, Drinky against the Panthers.
I probably would buy Sharp, but geez, like I would much prefer just with the price difference. I'd probably buy Sharp, but I you couldn't pay me to watch a Cowboys game, especially during that buy period where Drinkwater goes nuts. Um, I think at some point you're going to want him, and he's the cheapest he'll be for a good few weeks, I think, right now.
Yeah, so hopefully the Panthers show up and they keep him to a minimum. Yeah, for the Panthers, I think it's annoying that Jenkins is 17th man. I thought he would be playing that center role with Garner, sort of filling in on the bench. We still might see that come an hour sort of changed come teamless, but I think he's probably a sell. If not, mind you, Origin is around the corner. I suspect Dylan Edwards will probably play fullback for Origin, and then he'll be playing fullback for the Panthers, Tom Jenkins. So I
No,
don't mind.
he won't. It will be Dane Laurie. Um,
Oh,
Dane Laurie
over
will
him,
be
you reckon?
yeah, and I think Jenkins will take up like Toto's spot in Origin.
So probably a sell then anyway.
But yeah, like I mean, we'll see if Jenkins is a late call onto the side because I could easily see them shifting Garner to second row and an IPAP to the bench, or shifting Garner just straight to the bench and putting Jenkins in at centre. But yeah, it's not ideal seeing him named there. But hopefully, if you're an owner like we both are, that we see a late switch. Other than that, the Panthers have the bye next week, and then obviously Origin players will be out for round 12. So um, just something to keep in mind. But you could start to consider selling Cleary after this week. Same as if you had Yeo as well, because these guys are going to be missing next week, the week after, and then possibly if they don't back up even the week after that. So Edwards included in that too, and probably To'o. I wouldn't be looking at buying any of these guys just because I have the buy next week.
Yeah, that's it, mate. In saying that, I do think they beat the Cows this week, hopefully keeping Drinky to a minimum, and I think the Panthers win by 16. I think their defense will be too strong.
Really? Nah. I'm saying Panthers by 8 in that.
Moving on to our Super Sunday games, your favorite day of the week. We got the Storm versus the Tigs. What an absolute cracker.
That's it, mate. Cracker, if you're not a Tigers fan. For the Storm, we've got the same 17 named and no Harry Grant in sight. For the Tigers, we've got um, rolling out the same side as well, with Brent Naden named in the centres despite leaving the field early with a knee injury. Any thoughts there, mate?
Yeah, just with Eli Katoa, he's getting cheaper and cheaper, and I don't know how much cheaper he's gonna get, but for someone like myself who doesn't own, I've been eyeing him up a lot this week. He's at about 650k. He's dropped almost 110k since at least you brought.
Yeah,
I know they got the round 12 buy coming up, but I don't know. I'm just not sold on the buy straight away. So he's just someone worth mentioning and worth looking at if you don't own. Apart from that, that wraps it up from the Storm.
yeah, that's it, mate. Ali Katoa, since I bought at like 760k, has been a huge letdown. Not as big of a letdown as like Gutho, but like he'd be pretty close with how the expectations were with him and what he's delivered since bringing him in. But I can't complain. He got 77. I think he has bottomed out now, but obviously he doesn't play the first buy, so I think he's prime time to jump on if you've got the first buy round sort of covered. Um, Other things to touch on, I think, in saying talking about bottoming out, Jerome Hughes is about 600k. I know I had a bit of a look at him this week. I think he's a really good buy at that price. Same as Munster if you don't have him. Obviously, he'll play Origin though, but Hughes even more so. I think is a good buy. And then Farlongo, I'm not sure how long he keeps that spot. I picked him up in draft and couldn't be happier. This guy's just a freak, and he needs to find a place where he can just start every week. And I don't know if I'd be buying this week. I saw he's in one of the most traded in. What are your thoughts on Farlongo? Would you be have any interest in him?
Nah, I think he's a great player in real life, but for Supercoach, he relies solely on his attack, which doesn't always come. When it does, he's obviously a gun and he can easily turn up. But yeah, just I don't know the security at all. Like, nah, I'm just not interested at all.
Jeez, I would be very interested if I knew he had it long term. I don't know what's going on with Will Warbrick at all, and I'd hate to buy him and then see that he's back next week. That would just be a killer. But I would love to buy him. Well, I would be very interested in buying him if I knew he had the job security, but I don't think he does.
That's it, mate. Just quickly, what about Hughes versus Sharp?
Jeez, mate. Hughes is a massive pod right now, honestly. Like I really do. I looked at him quite heavily. I do like him. And what I like about that trade is that if you've got Cleary and Hines like we do, you can trade Hughes in this week and then sell Cleary next week for
In the
one trade and
flex.
get anyone you want. You could get Tedesco and
Mm.
basically, and lock in your like halfbacks through the bye period, with Cleary only playing like 5 out of the next 10 games or something like that. So I don't. That's why I was looking at Hughes more so, just because I don't think I want to run with. I'm not sure if I want to run with Cleary throughout the bye period, especially with his injury history. Um, and their schedule's poor for Origin players. So something that I'll probably, geez, um, have a look at deeper a bit next week. But To answer your question, mate, I think I'd be very tempted to go Hughes, honestly, over Sharp. Got
Something I'm
good pedigree.
definitely gonna look into now. I've thought of that. For the Tigs, not much to touch on. Obviously, Terrell May just keeps getting it done every week. I have the Storm for whatever reason. They're always a close game against the Tigers, and I know we've actually got them over the past couple seasons. So I'm gonna go Tigs by 2. I'm gonna be bold. Be bold.
Six by two, eh? I'm definitely going the Storm in this. I think the Storm pump him too after last week, weekend's loss. I'm gonna say Storm by 16 in this one.
That's that's it. Moving on to our final game of the week, we have the Seagulls versus the Sharks.
So for the Seagulls, we see winger Jason Saab and prop Jake Trbojevic return from the Sharks game. Trbojevic will start at prop with Jace Tabanga retaining his place at lock. That's quite interesting. And Bullimore moving to the bench. Tommy Talau also shifts to the interchange after playing wing in the past 3 games. And Josh Alloway remains sidelined with a shoulder injury. For the Sharks, just the one change to the side that beat the Eels at Magic Round, with Dan Atkinson joining the bench in place of Sifa Talakai. Jaden Beryl is listed as 18th man after Atkinson filled the role last week. What are your thoughts there, mate?
Yeah, not much to touch on really for either side. It is interesting, I think, that Tavanga has kept the 13 over Gerbo, but I just don't know how much longer he's going to hold that spot because I think Gerbo will go back to 13 soon enough. But yeah, bit of a shout, 340K, obviously dual position, could do worse.
Yeah, I don't mind the buy at all, especially with the Eagles playing all 3 buy rounds. And, if Jobo does make Origin, I wouldn't pick him, but, he was last year's captain. So who knows? I quite like the buy, especially with the duel as well. If you got, like, I don't know, Connor Watson or McInnes, you can flick between them, and you'd be set at hooker. It's just the minutes with Jobo coming back in. He plays such big minutes as a middle, and Tabanga has been playing like 70 minutes at lock. So I'm not sure if that holds with Jobo back there. Only other thing, obviously, with Manly coming in the bye, um, Olakau'atu is someone that I'm heavily considering. I don't think he makes Origin, but there's a risk there in buying him, especially with the Seagulls buy schedule. If you buy him and he makes Origin, then he's got the worst Origin schedule you could think of for an Origin player. Sorry, a buy schedule for SuperCoach for an Origin player, basically. So he's someone that I'm very closely having a look at this week. And we'll get to that a bit later. And then obviously Turbo will be interesting to see how he goes. Would you be against a Gutho to Turbo trade? I think, I can't answer that, but you maybe could. Have you thought about Turbo at all?
Yeah, just can't do it with Origin. I think he will be in the Blues side, and Tommy just hasn't looked good this year. So once he starts looking good on the eyes, I might be way more inclined to take a punt on him. But yeah, I think he plays Origin. I'm bringing him in. He's going to miss so many games. It's just not worth it.
I actually just don't think he plays Origin this year. I don't know where you put him. I don't. I'm not picking him over Stephen Crichton in the centres. And then I think I would take Bradman Best and Latrell over him on the other flank, and then he's not a better winger than Lomax, To'o, or Karaz. So I'm not sure where he
Yeah, I don't
fits
think
in.
Latrell makes it. I don't think he's showed nearly enough. He has, I reckon this is his big chance this weekend against the Broncos, but if he doesn't produce, I don't reckon there's any chance they'll go with him.
But Turbo, he traditionally plays right centre. I don't know. I'm just like obviously he's such a quality player when he's on. I just think
Mm.
with his injuries this year, how can you trust him to just set up and play Origin?
Same thing for Trell.
Yeah, like I think, well, the way I'd be picking it is I'd be picking specialists in those positions. So Crichton's 100% my right centre, and I would 100% be picking Best, I think, with how he's performed in Origin as my left centre. Um, but we'll see how they go, I guess. It's a bit of a risk to take, as we spoke with Ola, as we spoke touched on with Ola as well. You just don't know. Like no one knows. You can try guess it all you want, and then someone like Tim Glasby will come in and get named, and You just, you know,
Anything can happen.
anything can happen. I just remember when the Maroons did that, and then what's some other freaky ones that have been just out of nowhere? Like,
Corey Allen, the fullback, came from the sky.
yeah, Corey Allen out of nowhere, or you've got, um, even Lenu for me last year was a bit like, how's he deserve that? He's played bench sort of thing. Pangai Junior, who knows?
Mm.
Who knows? It's just
There's always a rogue one.
whatever the coach reckons. Anyway, we'll move on to the Sharks. I've got literally nothing to touch on for the Sharks apart from a lot of people buying the Cora this week, and I don't. I'm personally just not that interested in him. Even at 530K, like I don't think I'm going there, to be honest. He had a try in the line break and got 70. And with his ownership and how many people are bringing him in, I just don't like. I did like it previously, but the more I watch him, the less I start to like it, to be honest.
Yeah, fair enough, mate. I brought him about this time last year and he did absolute wonders. He just finds the attacking stats. He, for whatever reason, he picks up in the second half of the season and we should see that base really start to increase. But yeah, no denying his base has definitely been lacking to start this year. And then the only other thing, it's good for Billy Burns owners. We see no Wilton in sight. So I think if you brought him, you'd be very happy with that. Uh, Geez, this will be a good game. Who you tipping?
I'm tipping Manly, just the home ground at 4 points. I'm gonna
Yeah,
say
I
Manly by 6.
yeah, I think with Turbo back, if he's at least wanting to make a claim for Origin, he'll have to be up for it. And so yeah, I'll back you in with the Seagulls in that game. That wraps us up this week of TLT. We've sped it up a bit because at this point of the season, the teams have really started and settled, and we just want to get through the potty a bit quicker so we can get it out to you guys sooner. So that'll take us into our trades for the week, our trades and skippers. I'll start us off because it's a simple, very simple for me this week. As simple as going Clint Gutherson out. Obviously, I can flick Pappy up into fullback and have a flex. So let's just see if I can afford Jerome Hughes. I can definitely afford Jerome Hughes. So here's a shout. I can go with Hughes, but the bloke who I've had in my team pretty much all week, and the bloke who I think I'm definitely going to go with is Fletcher Sharp. So we bring him in for Gutho. Oh, what's happened here? Yeah, we bring him in for Gutho. Leaves us with 12K in the bank, and it also means we bank a trade this week. That leaves me with Ponga keeps the VC sharp down there. We'll throw the C on Pappy for now. Our centre wings really starting to look strong with Karaz, Herbie, Garrick, and Marzu. Obviously, with Tamale, Jenko, and Smith on the bench. 5'8", we have Munster, happy to bench LKT this week. We got Cleary and Hines, lock that in. Second row, we got Lucas, Tino, Naf White's on the bye this week. So we'll go Dylan Egan. Horse or Nicholson. I'll probably go Nicholson. Oh, but it's against the Dogs. But is he running at Preston's edge?
Nicholson is right edge,
Right
so he'll be
edge.
running at kick out.
Kick out. Yeah, so maybe I'll go with Horse. Horse over Nicholson. Front row forwards, May, Haas, AFB, liking that, and Hooker, same as on the bye. So that leaves us with Brayley. So pretty simple for me this week. My VC will most definitely be on KP this week. And my C isn't certain at this point. I've got it on Pappy at the moment, but could be a late switch to Cleary or one of the centers, mate. That's me for the week. How about you? Are you good to screen share your trades?
Yeah, I'll do that now. You see that?
Can see that, mate.
Yeah, so for me this week, this is obviously my side from last week. I have, put it simply, I've got no idea on what I'm doing. I've got a couple options in my head. I think I'm definitely trading Horsburgh this week. What I can do with trading Horsburgh, is I can get in a second row forward. I was having a look around. I can go Nakora, and I'm pretty keen on trading Tamale as well. So I'm definitely trading Horsburgh, and then probably more likely than not trading Tamale. If I just trade Horsburgh on his own, I'm probably just going to go to Nakora, just straight swap from Nakora down. Even though I said that I don't, not the biggest fan of him at the moment. Um, what I'm sort of torn between at the moment is what to do with these two options, bring them down. So one of them is I can just go Fletcher Sharp and then I can go a Halasima here. 488k. The guys I was looking at were Halasima. I was even tempted to bring Egan back in or Papali'i playing on the edge, but I think I like Halasima the most out of them. The other option that I was looking at was to go Olakawatu, just lock him in with Ali Katoa for the year and Tino up there. That pretty much sets my second row. And then I've got 490k to spend on the centre wing. And the guys just miss out on Gagai, otherwise it would have been him. The guys I was looking at down here were getting in Cobbo. Well, Cobbo was the guy, sorry. Cobbo was the guy I was looking at. I can obviously go all the way down to LKT if I want and flip Dewey to centre. And I can also get a second row in as well. So I could
In
go Halasima
Halasima.
and
I think I
Olakau'atu.
like that. That sorts your center wings out.
Yeah, it's just missing out on Sharp, obviously, with the matchup. I think Sharp outscores Olakau'atu this week, but I'll show you how the side looks if I do go with this. So obviously we got my Lord and Savior Teddy, unfortunately on the bench this week, who we dearly missed. So has that worked? Yeah. Don't know what's going
Yeah,
on.
Ola's there.
Yeah, it's just wigging out a bit.
Bugged out.
There we go. I don't know what's going on, but I can't swap players around for some reason.
Must be all those hacks you're using.
That's it, mate. Yeah, I've got no idea what the hell's. I can't even pick a reserve or anything like that. I'll burn out the app. I'm on it too much. Anyway, be pretty straightforward because half my side's not even playing this week. What my reserves would be. So I've got no Toya, no Drinky, no. Basically, I'll just read it out to you. I'd be playing Drinkwater and Pappenhausen.
Just click
Captain,
cancel trade. Does it work?
what's that?
Click the cancel trade. Yeah, there you go.
Good stuff, mate. Good stuff. All right. So I'd be looking at something like this. Pretty set on Captain Pappenhausen and VC Cleary for me. I'm not playing Dewey against the Storm. This is how it would sort of look.
His center wings look way
Play,
better now.
play Tino. Gonna have to play Hubner as my last reserve, unfortunately, because
Oh,
I've
jeez.
the other options are Sandon, who's not playing, Royce Hunt, who's garbage, Simpkins, who's enough, Dewey against the Storm, I'm not doing. Toya, Billy Smith, Teddy all on the bye, and then Jenkins. Obviously, if Jenkins was starting, I'd flick Hubner to him, and that's a pretty decent 17. But I think I'm just gonna have to cop Hubner this week. But yeah, that's how the side will look. Still not sure on what I do here. I think I can easily just go. I could also go a Cobbo instead of Halasima, or I could go Fletcher Sharp. But I think those are the four guys that I'm looking at the moment. Haven't fully set on any of them, to be honest.
Yeah, like it,
On
mate.
who
The
I'll bring in.
side's looking good.
Thanks, mate. Yeah, it's just these fullbacks carrying me at the moment. With these are definitely the fullbacks to own. I said it pretty early doors, and these are the guys you want, and they've done me wonders. Obviously without one of them this week, but we'll hopefully hold rank, stay in the top 1K. But I don't think that I will, unfortunately. I think I'm due some reds after having greens for 10 rounds straight.
Yeah, the luck will always turn, but it will always turn. I think that wraps up this week's podcast, episode 14 of the Hooked On NRL SuperCoach podcast. Yeah, thanks for listening, guys. Don't forget to like, comment, let us know your thoughts, let us know any of your trades, and we'll get back to it in next week's podcast. Any sort of closing regards, mate?
No, that's all for me. Thank you everyone for listening, and we'll be back to it next week, and hopefully we see some greens. I know I'm going to need all the hope I can get with this
Yeah,
side.
you're gonna have to use the rest of your luck up if you got any left. All right. See you,
That's it,
mate.
mate.
See you guys. Thanks
Yeah,
for
cheers.
listening.
Thanks.